This is podcast 8 with Sean Guo. Sean, welcome.
Hello.
Hello. So it's been a while since we last talked. I guess let's try to build some bridges since last time. What do you think about that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. During COVID, before we went home, March 2020 with COVID, we were living in the same house. We were housemates, right?
Oh, that was a while ago.
Right. March 2020, 2 years. Two
Yeah.
years. Actually, in one day, it'll be 2 years exactly. March 18th. That's when
Oh,
we all went home. Yeah. And so I guess one of the reasons we weren't able to meet up was I guess my mom's very strict on COVID. And then I think you were saying that to protect your grandparents, you didn't want to you didn't want you needed to stay home to just play down the risk.
yeah.
So how are they doing? Was that how did that turn out?
You
Yeah.
know what's weird is during a COVID time, like what, maybe four of my family members, or actually no, it was only three. So like me, my grandparents, both of them had to go to the hospital at one point. None of it was for COVID. All of it was for other external stuff, and we're all still fine. We had other health complications, but none of it was like COVID related. I
I
think our
see.
family has stayed relatively safe
How
because
about yeah, oh yeah, because
my sister's were like studying to become a doctor or at least some like have a job in the medical field. So she was very careful with how we behaved.
your sister Robin, right?
Yeah,
Is she still studying medical school right
I
now?
think she's coming out the full-time training and going into medical school after.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
I guess for my grandpa, similar thing. He went to the hospital, not for unrelated COVID reasons. I think as a stroke or something. And then it's at the hospital while he was recovering, he got COVID. But he got tested positive. It didn't turn out to be a big deal. But I guess for him to be in the hospital in the first place, I think it had to do with because he couldn't exercise and go on a walk. He went to the what's it called, Lalandongxing, the where elderly people go to
yeah.
yeah, the elderly care center or something. Like he had to walk there every day. And then he played board games. And I felt like that helped his physical and mental health. And because COVID, that closed down, he didn't get that anymore. And so that deteriorated his health really quickly. Did that
Yeah.
happen to your grandparents or not really?
My grandparents usually stay at home anyway, but they keep themselves busy with like gardening and I guess laundry and like
Ah,
house chores. So like they're surprisingly healthy.
I think it's the gardening because they go out and
It's
they
also more like I feel like we have to remind them how old they are more than like they recognize because like my grandpa still offers to go out to shovel snow in the winter and we're like maybe
mm,
you should stay inside just
you think it's their generation, or is it like an age thing? Because our generation, we just love staying inside versus their generation, they just I don't know if they when they were younger they want to be outside. I think they did. Are they just more active and then times have changed, or is it when you're older you want to be young and so you want to go out? What do
I
you
think
think
it's
it
just
is?
like as you grow old you don't want to feel like you can't do anything because like we're young
Okay,
so we know if we go outside there's definitely something we could do like I could definitely go outside and shovel snow no problem but like
but you
as
don't
you
do
grow
it.
or I still do it because I don't
Oh,
want my
you
grandparents to
do it,
do
but
it.
you know how
But like if
kids
I
just want
had the
to.
choice
Uh-huh.
to not be the one to do it, I would be like, yeah, I'm gonna stay inside. But like once you grow old, you don't want to be the person that sits around all day because then I've heard I haven't been that old myself yet, but like they feel like they're useless and that gets them depressed. So like if they could do
Oh,
like anything, like they
they
will.
do it. They
Yeah,
jump on it. You think you agree with the saying youth is wasted on the young?
kind of in a way. I feel like being useless during your youth is part of being young. I feel like naturally as you grow older, you will regret your youth, and that's just something that happens to everyone. Like how
Okay,
like even at
right.
this point that we're at now, if I got to see my like middle school self, I would like punch him in the face, like no hesitation.
Wow, you admit that.
Yeah, it's just like I hate that kid.
I see. Some people they feel like if I went back in time and told myself how to do this, this, and this, they do it. And I'm like, no, you wouldn't. Your middle school self would punch you, or you want to punch them. So
Yeah, it'll just be
you're honest with
hands
that.
thrown immediately.
Right, right. So speaking of this wasting of time, like during COVID, do you feel that you lost time or lost certain experiences? I guess what would those experiences be?
I think it's definitely just more social interaction. Like
Mm,
I feel like for everyone, the way professors adapted to teach remote learning really kind of did not work well because
mm,
like they had to learn something new and we had to adapt to remote learning and everyone kind of didn't learn as well as a result. But
right.
more so for me because my social skills aren't top tier to begin with. I got a lot of practice by going to college, interacting with like the saints and other college students, and when that like went remote, everyone just kind of stopped and like kind of vanished into their own like private lives, and my social skills kind of plummeted. And then when I came over here to Chicago, I had to learn real fast how to like, I'm not sure, like
Don't talk to people again.
talk to people and like not be a little bit like weird or off-putting, and like how to grocery shop.
Alan said something like that too. I don't know if you listened to the podcast I did with him. He said he like called me up one day because he forgot to how to talk to he was afraid he was forgetting how to talk to people, so he wanted
Yeah,
to talk to me real quick. But I get that sense that like during COVID we just shut ourselves in. We didn't really want to talk to anyone outside. We
yeah,
could have done this thing. We could have just talked to each other then, but
what's
I
the
don't know.
weird thing is that I told myself like, oh yeah, we might be going remote, but like I'm gonna try and keep everyone together. Fell apart immediately. Tried maybe like once or twice. I'm like, ah, well, like if everyone else is doing it, I guess I'll just play video games by myself too. Eh.
I didn't. Oh, interesting. I felt like for the whole semester, like no one wanted to join in for studying. That's what I felt like. And
There's
then
also
after the
the
semester,
thing
I was,
though is that like just joining like a room just to quietly study it, just it's
mm,
not too appealing
right.
because I say you could probably focus better by yourself, but there's computers and distractions everywhere anyway.
With this I guess we could talk a little about remote learning. You said the professors didn't do too well. Like, would you think like an online course would have been better? Like, because online courses, they already built online. So they had the natural advantage over professors who are trying to switch over online.
Okay, like I feel like because I took a online course one semester, but when we were still in person,
Mm,
it was like intro to music theory. And I didn't quite like that because at least for that online course, they just posted notes online, told you to read it, and like then you took an online like quiz, which you could easily cheat on
mm.
because I did. And like, I just feel like I didn't
Uh-oh.
learn much because it's essentially like I could have just Google searched this stuff myself.
Mm,
But I feel like COVID and like remote learning really forced professors to kind of refine the process more. Like the first semester, like probably for everyone was a complete mess. Like professors couldn't prevent cheating. They didn't know how to best present like lessons
mm.
or like to keep the class focused. And some professors didn't adapt, but like you could tell towards like after like maybe 2 semesters, like some professors got really good at it. And like some professors just again suffered.
Right. With respect to you learning, I guess, I think you didn't have the best time, or you said socially, like, I guess that hurt a lot. Not hurt a lot, but like I guess you could say regress in that sense. I guess
Yeah,
I regressed a lot too. I just didn't want to talk to people then. But how about like academically? Was it a struggle or not really? It
I
was good.
think because there are certain courses where I definitely struggled a lot more, and I was like, if this was in person, it would be like so much easier. Because like sometimes you have a question, but like now you have to send it through email to the professor, who
Mm,
might not even read it or who doesn't have to respond. If you ask a professor in person, like they kind of have to answer.
yes, right.
So like there was that, and then like, but there was one course that the professor just made that entire semester. You guys are building one big project. You guys work in like teams of five, and that's the entire course. So like it's not an option. Like you can't just be like, oh, I'm gonna go quiet. Like it's a team of five. So if you go missing, the other four will know. And
Right.
you're building one project the entire semester. So it's not like you have to interact with like other people,
Hmm.
but at the same time there will be like lessons in between where you learn what you're like doing. So that was a I feel like this really good way to use remote learning because it kind of forces interaction.
If you could go back in time, I guess
Yeah.
socially, like I guess we just really didn't. You and we tended not to talk to people, or just we just shut ourselves off to the world. Would you have, if you could go back in time and do something, what would you tell your younger self or change up, or you think you would just join your younger self in isolation?
I think I would probably just tell my younger self, like, honestly, like, we're like not that different from other people, because I always told myself stuff like, oh yeah, you're weird and people think you're weird, which might be true. I'm a little bit like sometimes act a little bit strange, but everyone gets those feelings of like, am I being weird? Like I'm not sure if you got like thoughts like that. This is more personal, like look in the mirror and it's like, what if I'm like ugly? And just like, like stuff that really
Mm,
just puts yourself down.
right.
But then you look at other people like that, they're probably so confident, they probably think they're so like so much better. And actually narcissistic people are really rare. A lot of people are self-conscious.
Mm.
So it's not like you're so unrelatable and alone in the world. It's everyone's kind of like that.
Would you have tried to like do like
I
more bring everyone together, physical activities, like go out, throw a frisbee or something? Or
I think like maybe like that, but just in general, if like I could tell my younger self anything, it's just like just talk to people. Like
mm.
I don't know why I thought it was so scary before and I just like stay quiet, but like talking to people was not that bad.
Do you
I
think it's
think
from like previous experiences of talking to people, like in high school or middle
probably not
school?
even high school, probably like elementary school. I would defend this point. I think that elementary school, like kids that age around like middle school and elementary school, those are like some of the most evil people on the planet in like a joking sense because they're innocent and they're still learning how society works, but they don't know how society works. So they will like without hesitation go up to like someone who's like self-conscious and thinks that they're like fat and just straight up tell them you're fat and then walk away
Mm.
thinking that's funny. Like they're like psychopaths.
Okay, right, right.
Like
But they're genuine about it, right?
yeah,
But
like they tell you the
they think
truth.
it's funny, which is the weird part, but they're genuine
Yeah,
about it.
they're truthful about it. Also, like the way like kids bully each other is like you hear about, it, you're like that's
But
pretty
would you
extreme.
rather that, or like I guess when you grow up, or us, everyone's quiet, they're afraid to say something. They don't know what to say. You know what I mean? It's like you rather
Yeah.
someone tell you straight to your face you're ugly, or like no one says anything, but everyone's thinking you're ugly. You know what I
Like I
mean?
try myself to be like more truthful and like upfront with people. Of course, there's like limits to how forward you could be.
Mm.
But like I think the point that like
What would those limits be? It's like how well you know the person, or the person's like personality,
okay, so like
sensibilities.
I could say like the way like work relationships work, right? Like you feel
Okay.
like you're always at the icebreaker level with people where someone's like, oh yeah, my favorite color is red. Like constantly whenever they're like, okay, let's like do a team building activity, it's still like, oh yeah, my favorite color is red. It's like I knew that. Doesn't really tell me much.
We're
Like
not
you want
breaking any
to,
ice,
yeah,
right?
like for a normal relationship, you start with icebreakers, sure, because like you just don't go like straight up to someone and reveal like very personal like information.
Makes
But
sense.
eventually you would want to get past that point where you can open up more and for them to get to know you.
But like, how do I say this? Like kids, they just tell you straight up what they
Yeah,
think.
kids just
Like I guess society can't do that.
no, like
Oh,
you can't just like go up to someone and say, hey, you're chunky and just walk away being and like just act like nothing happened or oh like
well,
what's the
I actually prefer that in a way. You know, it's like I like you know how my face is kind of red, right?
yeah.
Because of acne, right? And then the little kids in church, they would come up to me and go like, "Oh, it's red face." That's the nickname they gave me. And like the adults would go like, "Don't say that. It's very
Yeah. And like
disrespectful." But
it's
like
okay.
it's honest, you know what I mean? Versus like maybe the college students, or maybe like you're looking at me and you go like, "Oh man, what's wrong with him? Why is his face so red?" And so like then I would never know. Versus like kids who like genuinely just tell you how it is, and then you kind of understand it. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
kind of like treasure that.
I
But
feel like because
uh-huh.
like there's a point. Like some kids are like it's like cute when they do it, but then other kids are like it's
Okay,
like
so it's how they do, how they tell
it all depends on how like there's just some like psychopath children out there or like when they're like starting to get stronger than toddler tier, and so they just start hitting things. And you're
Mm,
like, it's like that's a lot of violent energy in a little boy.
right, right,
But like overall, it's acceptable. It's just like hey, kids will be kids.
right.
You
Kids
can't
will be kids.
like
So
at least they'll grow out of it. Hopefully, if they don't grow out of it, then like let's just imagine the adult doing what kids do without like at a kids tier. It's not cute anymore. That's just like that person's dangerous.
right. You never grow up. There's a danger to that.
Yeah.
So okay, I guess things started in elementary school then. With like the fear of talking to people because I guess since elementary school, I think like for me, I guess habits or like perceptions of things I held since elementary school. It kind of like drove me until college, until you start reflecting on it at least.
I think like also this is more of like a weird history thing,
Okay.
but like mental health, like information and knowledge
Mm,
of that didn't really start becoming big when we were in elementary school. So like weird kids were just like that's the weird kid. Don't talk to the weird kid. He's weird. Now it's like more aware, like oh yeah, there's autism, there's ADHD, there's like social anxiety, like stuff like that. And like I think the treatment of that is taken more seriously.
mm.
But like back then, it just really wasn't.
There wasn't any help or there wasn't any mention of it.
It wasn't like any help or mention. And again, like kids are very brutally honest, but they don't know about stuff, so they see a weird kid and they just call him weird and run off, kind of
Mm,
ignore him, do their own thing. So it's like, and that doesn't help at all. But like now, I feel like there's more awareness around it,
right.
or at least
There's
like when they grow up, there is more awareness because that didn't really start until like I would probably say high school,
mm.
where people just started realizing like, hey, maybe we shouldn't. I feel like bullying was prevalent until high school. And in high school, it became more as a social judgment, which is fine because
But see, that's the
that's
phase into where you don't say it out loud anymore.
yeah,
But you like it's like the silent like no one knows what anyone else is thinking. But then you feel like isolated from everyone. Even everyone feels isolated then
I think it
because no one
also
knows what the
depends
others are
on
thinking.
who's the one doing it, right? Because if I don't care about someone and they think I'm weird, I'm like, no, whatever you think, whatever you think. And like people, let's say in the church life, because I care about the opinion of people in the church life.
So
If
it's the
like
people who you
if
care
they were
about.
like, oh, you're weird, and just stopped like inviting me to like home meetings and stuff, I would be very hurt
Mm.
because I actually care about that.
So it's the degree of the relationship too, I guess.
Yeah.
So I guess on a personal level, I don't know if this would be too personal, but I remember when I was living with you, like you took medication for focusing, right? Or
Yeah,
what was it
ADHD
for?
meds.
So when did you like start taking that? Because I always ask the question like, Sean, what if you stopped taking them? Would you still be able to like? I think you'd be okay. And you're like, no, I wouldn't be. So like,
So like it was probably high school, like around sophomore year of high school.
mm,
Like my parents were told like every single grade level I was in, my grades were either poor or mediocre. So like maybe B's and C's, so which are like just barely being able to pass. But
okay,
every teacher is like he has like he's able to do stuff. Like he's not a dumb kid. So then we
mm,
went to the psychiatrist because they're like, surely there's something wrong with our son.
mm.
And apparently it was ADHD. And when I take the medication, like I'm able to focus more and I can just actually pay attention in like lectures and like classes and stuff.
Mm.
Like off medication, my brain just goes everywhere. I would describe it as brain works fast, but not good.
Is that still the case, or
I think
not
it gets
anymore?
better with age because now I kind of like now that I'm aware of it, I can be more like, no, my thoughts are wandering. Okay, let's like try and focus, like get focused again. It's like still like
Right.
kind of out of my control because like my brain will just go to jump to some random thought and I'll have to bring it back. But like as a kid, like I didn't know about that. I thought the way everyone else thought.
I still
Yeah.
think that too. It's like I don't know. I feel like have you tried like going off the meds and then seeing like if you
No, the reason I'm not on meds anymore is because I'm out of college, right? Because in college, if I like went off meds and my grades declined, that's like another another
Oh,
like semester or another year, or just getting kicked out of the college in general. And that's a lot
mm,
out of my parents' wallet.
right.
It's a lot like in my future. Now like I'm like working and I'm doing all right without the medication. So like why would I put myself through that
So
if I
maybe
don't
it was
need to?
college thing. It was just too like stressful or like too
I think focus
paper
was too
focused.
necessary.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like, you're in one course, like, okay, you're doing this thing now, like 1.5 hour long test, like don't lose focus. The real world, from my experience, doesn't work that way.
Mm.
Where normally you do have to focus on multiple things at once. Or
Did you
like,
feel like, I guess, in college then, like, or like even in high school, because you weren't getting the best grades, or you were kind of failing, like you were a failure in life? Because like kind of like speaking to the kids out there who might be in like a similar situation. They might not be the smartest kid out there. They might not be getting the grades they want. What would you say to them based on your experience?
yeah, I think I definitely used to have feelings like that where I thought like, oh yeah, maybe I'm just like, I'm not the smartest, because like my sister's really smart. Robin's been like smart her entire life. She's tried, like, she studies really hard and devotes herself to stuff
Hmm.
like very intensely. So she earns everything. So like, I'm not saying that she's born that way, but
Mm-hmm.
like seeing her succeed and then watching myself like follow in her, because like a lot of teachers just called me Robin's little brother, and then I wouldn't get Robin level grades and like, oh, all right,
Right.
so this is what you're like. I'm like, no, like it does make you feel a bit like a failure.
Mm.
You have to come to realize that you're never the smartest person around. There's always better. And like even the person that's at number one doesn't know they're number one.
Mm.
So like all you can really do is just, I guess, try your best. Because if you admit defeat just because you're not the best, like you never were.
You
And
never
like,
were the best.
yeah,
Mm.
like you're never the smartest kid in the school. You're like, your goal isn't to be the smartest kid in the school. You won't even know if you were. It's just like study hard, try and get good grades. Like all that, that's all that really matters. Like,
What does matter then? Like, what should be each person's goal, or is that something someone has to find in their
I
life?
think everyone's goal depends. Like right now, like my goal in life is just eventually I want to start a family and I want to raise my kids to be decent folks so they can continue the family and raise children of their own. That's like, that's all I need. So I need a stable job, I need house,
Mm.
and see what's going off of that. But if someone else is like, I don't want to get married, I just want to retire early, move to
Right. I
like
just want to be alone.
yeah, like move to Cuba or something and be retired from the age of like 25, like if that's your goal, by
Has that
all
always been
means.
your goal, or is that something you've recently formulated?
I think that's just something I've had for a while.
Mm.
Because like, I'm not
Since high
gonna
school?
say, yeah, I'm not gonna say like my childhood was miserable, but like I think my goal for a while has just been whatever my children live, I want it to be better than what I've lived.
Mm.
Yeah, just like make stuff better for them. Because I mean,
A
if
slow
you,
improvement for the next generation.
yeah, like if you have kids and you like their lives end up worse than yours,
We
as I,
failed somewhere as a
I feel
society or person.
like maybe so, like something failed there, but like, I feel like that should just at least be like a goal.
I guess I want to jump into, like, I think you told me once a story of when you took some medication and then it
Yeah,
like made your heart beat really, really fast.
yeah.
Right? What did it, was it related to the ADHD stuff, or is
No,
something else
that
entirely?
was for depression and anxiety. And ironically enough, that medication did not help at all, because when your heart's beating very fast and your chest hurts, you're quite anxious.
Right.
So
Do you have like a distrust of doctors, or like you're antsy about what medications you take now, or you
not
forgive those
really,
doctors, or
because conceptually, like there's no way a doctor would know every single person's like body and how it works to be able to identify like, oh, this medication will be unsafe. So I did hear that medication is usually not the first one the doctor would prescribe,
mm,
but he did like the doctor did anyway. I guess maybe that was a mistake, if any, but like I'm not gonna distrust the entire like medical field because of it.
right.
So it only happened like once, and like of
Mm.
course it was a scary experience, but every other experience I've had has been fine. Just flu shots of all of that.
I guess jumping back a bit to this idea of like life goals and success, I guess you looked up to your older sister and you kind of like looked to yourself and you But like, I think it's natural for humans to compare. Like, I compare myself to my brother. I'm sure he
I
does the
think
same thing
comparing with
with
siblings
me,
is normal.
right?
Like I'm
But
sure
like,
like if you ask my sister, she would have something different to say. But like for me, like no living like with her, to seeing like she top tier grades, has like a whole bunch of friends, and I'm here like kind of alone with like bad grades. I'm like, what is she doing that I'm not? Like
is that the curse of the younger sibling?
I don't really think so. I think it's just being a sibling in general. Like what if like it was reversed and I was the older brother and she was the younger sister? I'll still be like,
Then it might be a Cain
like
and Abel story.
yeah, it's just like yo, like what is she doing that I'm not doing? It was
Mhm.
never like a jealousy thing, like oh how come she has it so good? It's just
But it's
like
something
what?
like on the unconscious, not borderline unconscious, like something you would never say, but it's just there, and you think about it,
Yeah,
right?
it's just like I don't know what she's doing so right that I'm just not.
Do you still have those thoughts, or that was like high school thinking, college thinking?
I think like since college I've become more like with the mindset of I am who I am, and like I shouldn't try to be my sister. I should just try and be like the best person I could be at this moment. So
So I guess that kind of like catches up from, you could say, from elementary school all the way to college a bit. Since college, after graduation, we took photos together, and then you went off to Chicago. It
yep.
wasn't directly. I think you still stayed in New Jersey for a
I
bit.
stayed in New Jersey for like I got to Chicago in like late October because I had
Right.
my birthday still was in New Jersey, and then like the week after I learned that I had to move, and
Mm,
then within a week I got an apartment and moved over to Chicago. So that was all really fast.
So how was the apartment search? Because like here, like housing is like crazy right now.
It was surprisingly easy. I mean, there was only 3 apartments available or like buildings available. We just called this building, said, "Hey, we have this apartment open." I just took it.
What do you think the big difference is between living New Jersey, Chicago? Is the people friendlier there? Not as much expensive, lavish, not as much in New Jersey, or
It's
same?
definitely definitely chose one of the more expensive places to live. Like this is like downtown Chicago, so like there's big buildings, stuff. Like 20-minute walk to work, which is one of the taller buildings in Chicago. Yeah, it's definitely pricey, but it's relatively safe where I live.
How about
Chicago is
people?
like one of those cities where like you definitely hear that as like dangerous here.
Mm.
And I guess in a way that's true. It's just if you go out at night, if you go too far to the south or the west, you're probably gonna die. But around where I live, it's fine. This is it's one of those wealth divides.
People wise, Chicago any different than New Jersey? Do they make fun of your accent? Is there such thing as a Jersey accent or a Chicago accent?
If there's I don't think there would be a Jersey accent. I've heard the only thing I've heard is that my sister and I talk alike, but
Oh,
like
okay.
nothing really from Jersey. Also, the Jersey accent, I've never heard it once in my life, despite
Mm,
like growing up in Jersey.
me neither. Yeah.
I think the bigger difference is that like definitely the Saints are like pretty similar because they're always pretty friendly, but like random people you meet on the street are much more like, don't look at me, I don't look at you, mind your own business, just keep walking.
Is that the same thing like New York City too? I feel that's the
It's
similarity.
probably like I would say it's better than New York.
Oh, it's better than New
I
York.
know this is a slight New York roast, but like I feel like people in New York walk with this aura that they feel like they're better than you,
Mm,
and that like they just have that look on their face. I walk in
smugness.
like at least when I walk in Chicago, the faces of the people speak more like, "Yo, I just want to go home."
I see. I see.
So
Okay.
much more just like I'm just doing my own thing.
Which do you prefer, New Jersey or Chicago?
I can't really tell the difference like too much in terms of that because I don't interact with people that much anymore. I'll probably say Chicago just because I have more like the freedom of living alone.
Parents wise, how are they doing back in Jersey?
Yeah, they're from what I've heard, they're doing pretty well.
Hmm.
Occasionally, my mom calls me like, or like she tries to call me every day, but work has been a little bit busy, and sometimes I just don't feel like it. But like,
right.
yeah, she'll try and call like every day. I answer probably like 3 times a week. Just call, maybe read the Bible, whatever.
I guess you always told me you kind of grew up in a richer town, and so, but like just because people in a richer kids grew up in a richer town didn't mean they were, I guess, better. They still had a lot of struggles they had on their own. It's like I guess you could call it rich kids problems, but I guess you also ran into a couple of those problems. You weren't treated the best in high school. Speaking to a kid going through similar experiences, what could they do differently or navigate differently?
Because like at like every point in your life, you're gonna meet some unpleasant folks. And like in high school, it's a lot of I feel like there's like an obsession with like dating or like being good looking, popular or whatever. Like people on football teams or like there's all the popularity revolves around that somehow. At least in like my high school it did. So like if you're not in that group, you're either in like a band group or like you find like a
So like
niche. I
you
didn't.
find your tribe or
Yeah,
community,
like I
right?
didn't really have one,
Mm.
and like the way I speak and the way I behave is a little bit different from the way like I guess I don't want to say average folk because they're not, everyone's different, but like
Normal norms.
yeah, like people found it strange.
Mm.
So like maybe entertaining or something. So there's like occasionally poke fun at you, trying to make you say something that they find funny, but it's just the way you talk and they'll have a laugh or something. But yeah.
Deep down in my being, I always feel that I might have been one of those kids who bullied you. I
And
don't know
you know
why.
what's the thing is I don't really hold any resentment because now when I think back, like if I was in my like in their exact situation and there was a kid like me, like I would do the same thing. Just
Really?
like without like any hesitation, I would not be the kind person. It's like, here, let me talk to you. Want to be friends? I would just be like, oh, look at you, weirdo.
So you want the kid to go through that like experience to
No,
like,
I don't
is
think
it
any kid should. And like, but I can't with like full like I can't say that I wouldn't be the person that bullies. Like I would probably be that. Not bullying in the like point of like pushing kids into lockers and like laughing at their face when they're clearly
but
upset. But
you
like,
wouldn't side with them or be helping them?
yeah, like I would not be their friend.
Hmm, I see.
But like any kid in that situation like that, uh, aside from the fact that there's always a group of kids like that, so like there's always a group of like, I'm not gonna say social rejects, but kids that aren't so popular.
Mm,
Maybe they're like into some like very niche subject, but you're like either online or in real life, you're gonna meet someone with shared interests and just hang around those people. You don't need to be with the others that are like
the star
surrounded all
group.
the time, like star groups.
What
But like
how
my
did you get out of it then? The
yeah,
spiral? Because for some kids, they just remain in the spiral, remain like downtrodden, kind of like I am the reject of society, and that kind of leads to bad places. But like, I guess how did you get out of it?
because my high school is at least large enough for me to have like maybe like 3 people that like hung around constantly. So like I wasn't completely alone, but like to get out the overall attitude I had of like, oh, I'm the reject of society, like I'm a freak, I'm not like the other kids. It's more like eventually you just have to stop caring because
Mm.
I mean like everyone has their own problems. Like,
What was the bond between you and the three friends you had? I guess
oh, we
was
just play
video
video
games.
games.
Video games,
Yeah,
greatest bonding factor of this generation.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's also important to not become obsessed with like fitting in or like because like some people like when you're in the depressed mood, sometimes you don't want to be made happier, like you just want to stay upset. And I feel like it's important to like break yourself out of that
How do you do
because
that?
honestly, I can't like give like any like solid you do this,
Mm.
but
But
like
what
if
did you
so
do? Or like, but sorry, go.
like if someone's like trying to offer help at all, or like at any point your mood does start getting better, like don't give into that feeling of no, I should be angry, I'm entitled to my anger type,
Mm.
type of thought process. Because that's how you get like stuck there, right? In that like cycle of
Mm.
hatred, like oh, these people wrong me, I should be angry at them. Like I don't need to forgive
Right.
them. They did hurt me, or anything like that. Just take the happiness when it comes. Just why would you
Mm.
not?
Would you say you're more happier now versus like when you were in school?
I was, yeah, I would say so. It's
It's
more like my
less
life as a whole is in like better place.
making money, have a job, living by yourself,
I was living
freedom.
by myself. I'm not in debt yet, so like stuff's moving along. Just
Mm.
and like in high school, especially, they're talking about college, talking about your future, but like they don't tell you how to achieve it, nor do they really help you that much in achieving it. They just say like, "Oh, if you screw up now, your life is over." So it scares you as a kid. Like you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna still call people in high school kids because they kind of still are."
Sure, right.
But like like you're like, "Oh God, I gotta get into this like good high college. Like I need to get a good job. If I don't, like my life is over. Like what am I gonna do?" So you're all panicked, you're freaking out. Now these people are in their own like clubs of people, and you're not in one, you're by yourself. And
Mm.
another thing I hate is that they all shared which college they got into. Like, oh, I got into Yale, I'm going to Cornell. So like they're like, listen to my success story. I'm set. And what if you're not? Like, what if you haven't found the college yet?
Mm.
Like then you feel like, oh well, they're gonna be rich and famous. I'm just gonna die alone. And it's not
Mm.
really that like it's never really that bad. Like even if you don't find a college, there's other jobs that like still need filling. Some of which, if you know which like where to find them, are actually paid well. But
Mm.
like there's really this like emphasis in society, and I'm gonna derail the conversation into social media. If you want advice for any kid on how to break out depression, get off Instagram and Twitter.
Are you still on or no?
Well, I'm still on Instagram. Just
Mm.
like I like browsing through, seeing where people are in their life,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm never like jealous of it. I'm just like, oh, so that's what they're doing. But like
Mm.
as a kid, like already with that piled on, like the stress of your future and like just see like feeling
Seeing other
alone
people.
and isolated, seeing other people like partying, like getting into relationships, getting like money, getting into colleges, that all just piles on and none of it helps you. You don't need to know any of that. So like
Mm.
it's this.
So we social media shouldn't be for younger kids, or we shouldn't put that restriction. They should just discover that it's not for them on their own.
See, because there's no way to educate them on this. You can't just say like, "Oh, get off social media; it's bad for you." They don't understand, and it's gonna become one of those things that you can't ban something from a kid, right? Like, eventually
Right.
they're gonna find it somehow, somewhere, and like the more you tell them not to, the more they want to do it. So
Mm. So what's the way to do it then? Because it's like,
I think it just needs to be made aware that it doesn't help. Like, is actually like pretty unhealthy to just every day instead of focusing on yourself, just looking at other people and wondering why am I not them. I say Twitter and Instagram, but like both are for different reasons. Instagram is the one that like you just see other people and no one broadcasts their failures. Everyone only shows off their success, right? You're like no one's going to be on Instagram saying, oh, I broke up with my boyfriend, or
right.
oh, like I got fired from my job. Is always vacation in Cancun with the girls, or
Yeah, sure.
like
Right, the
guys at
positive
the
events.
or at the guys at the gym weightlifting shirtless, and you can see their six pack of abs, and you're like, oh, why am
Right.
I not that good looking? No one broadcasts their failures. No one goes on there to
But if you're
say,
in a cast
yeah,
or
no one goes on there to be like, I'm a little bit depressed right now, or like, I'm feeling a little bit lonely, and like, just normalizing negatives. They make the positives seem normal. So when your life is not entirely positive, you're like, what's wrong with my life?
hmm,
But no one like it makes you forget that life in and of itself is probably more negative than positive. Like there's more hardships than there are just
happy moments.
sunshines, lollipops, and rainbows.
I guess for us, we started finding a job, or we were employed during the Great Resignation when a lot of people are quitting or trying to find a new job. So I guess how did you come to your job, or decide that this is what you want to do out of necessity, or is it, I don't know, you saw something you really liked?
See, because like at home, all I really did was play video games on my computer
Mm.
and search for jobs. But if I wasn't searching for jobs, that's kind of all I would do. I'm not the type of guy that would like teach myself a new programming language or like write my own like program and create my own startup company.
Mm,
So like if I didn't find a job, I would not be productive at all for society, for myself, my family.
mm.
So like finding a job was just a step like I need to be doing something right now. Like I can't just stagnate in life.
Ah,
So that was the
so
pressure that I had on myself.
okay,
Because like I would not be comfortable just sitting at home being like useless.
right. So it's a good pressure in a way because it
Yeah.
forces you to do something.
And I know some people feel like they're failures for not finding a job, but I feel like as long as you're trying, that's fine. But like if you're just sitting there like gaming away on your computer, like no effort at all, like what are you like? Well,
Well,
are you working towards anything then?
some people say that people do that as a way to like de-stress or like to run away from the world for a bit. But I guess the cruel irony of it is that like the more you play, the less time you spend doing it. So I guess for those kids, what would you say to them or those people?
See, because eventually you can like everyone procrastinates a little bit, right?
Yeah,
And
even I
from
do.
your experience procrastinating doesn't make the work disappear. It just piles up more. And I guess the same thing goes like you could just play video games all day, sure. But like let's just say like a high schooler in this situation, because we were talking about that before, like
Mm,
your homework's not going to go away. You're either going to miss it or it's just going to pile up. And eventually you're going to have to do it all at once or like just get it all wrong. I'm not sure, like
So
not turn
what's
it
your
in.
advice then? Is it just do it?
You gotta you gotta learn how to beat procrastination to become an adult. Like
You gotta what?
you gotta beat
Oh,
procrastination
beat. I thought you said you
to
gotta
like
learn for okay, beat procrastination.
yeah, because everyone does it.
Mm,
Just some people know how to handle it. Like you gotta get used to just being like, I want to play like computer or something, like play video games on my phone. You gotta learn how to just put it away and just like, I'm getting the work done now. Or you set a plan saying, all right, I get to play on the computer this much and be very strict about it. Like I'm gonna play computer now, and then I'm gonna do work for like 2 hours, and then I'm allowed to break again. But like you can't stretch out that time at all.
mm.
And you have to be equally strict with both. So you're not working past that time. You're taking a break like then, but also your break ends exactly at that time. So then it's all set up. You can't argue with yourself like, oh, I did so much I did so much work today and whatever. It's like, no, you set this time out yourself. You follow it.
Right.
Just and if you finish your work early, well then your break just gets longer. So you get to do whatever you enjoy more. But like
Have,
just to like go into the day, be like, oh yeah, I'll do work when I do it. I'll play games when I want to. You're not gonna get work done.
have you been keeping up with world events recently or
Oh
just
yeah.
people? Yeah. What's
Yeah,
going on
but
in Ukraine?
oh boy, what is
Yeah.
going on in Ukraine?
Yeah, what is going on, right? Well, Russia's invading. That's clear. How about at home? Do you concerns about rising prices? Do you see that in your life or not really?
I walk everywhere in Chicago,
Mm,
so I'm surprisingly not affected that much by gas prices.
mm.
All of my stock investments have plummeted though. I hate that. The second I started investing, I lost like $200. But let's ignore that part.
Put more in now?
And no,
No,
no, I'm too scared.
that's it.
I need to pay rent.
Right, right.
You know what? It's just like a little side rant. Is I mentioned Instagram, but I never explained why I hate Twitter. I
Okay.
hate Twitter because everything on Twitter becomes politicized in some
Mm,
way. Like a war broke out in Ukraine right now, right? Russia's invading. This should be a universal, this is bad. We don't like it thing. How did it become a Republican Democrat issue? Like, because they
mm,
always separate it into these two parties and they're like, oh, well, they think one thing. We don't agree with them. Like, you're both Americans, first off. And
mm.
like for like just being a decent person, don't you think that it should be bad that a war happened at all? Because no one wins in a war. Both sides lose. Only the powerful leaders, or in this case, I guess Russian leaders, are like unaffected, and they can just have fun, right? Just throw the youth at them, and
That's
let's
what they're
see if we
doing.
get Ukraine or not.
They're throwing
The youth are
conscripts.
dying.
Yeah.
Ukraine's suffering. Russian economy is like suffering, but what do the powerful care? Once it comes back, they're still richer than the poorest folk out there.
Do you think it's something beyond just economic stuff, beyond getting rich? Like I feel like Putin, he's more like a power person. You know, he has a
Well, you see,
KGB.
like Putin's getting old,
Mm,
so like whatever world events happens, whatever like scars he creates on this planet, he's not gonna be around to see it. I think he's just at the point where he's like, let's try and see if we can pull this off. You know how much they're threatening nuclear weapons?
yeah,
Like
they are.
that is not a threat that someone who cares about the future of the planet makes.
Mm,
Because no one wins in nuclear like warfare. That's
right.
like
End of the
planet
world.
ending. So
Mm,
literally what he's saying is like, I don't care. I can destroy the planet as a threat. Like that's a fun thing to throw out there. And like
so I think one of the reasons for social media, I guess, this like politicization is that Russia has goals, right? They're trying to spread their side of the story, which is that they need to protect themselves from Ukraine or the West, right? And as much as I think it's baloney, but I guess since the fall of the Soviet Union, like from historical perspective, like NATO's slowly been expanding towards them, and then they feel like, like NATO can easily be turned into an offensive alliance and just take over Russia. Of course,
yeah.
the West denies doing that, but that's the Russian side of the story. Not siding with Russia, but
But
I
it's
think,
also like
yeah.
Twitter bothers me in a way because this is less people's opinions on the Ukraine situation.
Mm,
This has kind of just become something in general that happens where social media is supposed to be for people to connect, right? Like
mm,
right now, it doesn't matter. Like I don't know your political opinion that much. You don't know mine. We're just talking like
yeah.
humans. But on Twitter, everything someone posts, like some people post, is political. So it's just saying, I don't like your thought. This
Mm,
is my thought. Someone else gets mad because they read the thought that they don't agree with. But instead of talking, it's basically digitally yell at each other. But like they never converse, so they never understand. They just get angrier and grow more hate towards each other. And
mm,
so I've heard Twitter be described as a cesspool, essentially like a toxic pit, because you go in there and you don't become smarter. You just get angrier at whatever you don't agree with. You find your people and like you form like a cult and you
that's
just
where
go
the
with them.
conspiracies come in. That's why there's so many conspiracy theories running around.
Yeah, so many conspiracies, just
Democrats eat babies. You
so
heard
much
that one
like, oh
before?
yeah, like I'm a conservative, they're a liberal, we'll never get along. But like in like a real world setting, you take a really conservative person, you take a really liberal person, sit them down at the table and just have them talk. Like it will not play out like it does on Twitter.
Do you think
Because
that
you
the
can't just
solution then to social media would be more in-person interactions?
I would hope so. And
Hmm.
like they've gotten to the point where it sometimes gets violent. Like people like set attacks out on each other, like doxing other people, which is revealing personal information like where they live and stuff. Like you don't do that. That's so dangerous.
Hmm.
But like
Right.
doing stuff like that just because they don't agree with each other. Like that's not how humans should operate. We're better than that.
Are we? Or are we? I guess we
You
always like
know,
to
I
say we're
I, I say
civilized,
that, but we're constantly proving like that point wrong.
right? It's like we
Like
thought we would never have another world war, or the possibility of nuclear weapons was gone, but here we
or
are.
like the George Floyd situation where this man, the cops kneel on this guy's neck, he dies, and now people are, but did he die from the cop on his neck? Or he probably did drugs. He wasn't the best person. I don't care about any of that.
Mm,
Someone died.
mm,
That should be enough to cause like for a reason to be upset. But
mm.
somehow became like, if you don't think this way about this man's death, you're evil and you're a conservative. Or like, if you don't think
Wow.
this way, you're liberal and you don't care about our justice system. Like, it was
You
never
just hit
about
both
that.
sides at once. That's
If
good.
like someone died, all right, and none of you care about his life really, because the liberals pretend like they do, but all they really care about is that the cops killed him. They don't care about the man that just died. And the conservatives like, what was in that man's system? Was he breaking the law? Well, if he broke the law, then his I don't feel bad about his death. Like he was a man.
Mm,
Like, can you guys just like acknowledge that he was a man? They made paintings of him on walls. Like
mm.
they spread his name around everywhere. Thousands of Instagram posts, like thousands of tweets. I don't know that man's life. Like I don't know who George Floyd was, his life story, his family, any of that. All I hear about is that those cops are evil. They should have done that. Man, I hope those cops are prosecuted. Like, this is upsetting. Is that like, okay, this may be a darker thought. I could go out in the streets of Chicago, I can get stabbed in the kidney, die on the street, and people would argue about somehow turn that political.
Into like an Asian hate crime or
Like
something like that.
Chicago, Democrat City, Asian hate crime. How could this be? Surely we need to like tighten up the laws and like give our police more power. Like, can like really?
Hmm. Do you think that we are in this polarized environment because of social media, or it
I
was
think
already
social
trending that?
media definitely contributed to it because I think it definitely happened before, right? Like you hear about history from like the like 1980s or something. People are still in their groups of their posses of people. To social media. Originally, the thought was that oh, you like spread your thoughts out there, you share in conversation, like you can talk with people across the globe, but like people still just form their little cult groups, and like all they do is like occasionally step out and like launch a few attacks at people that are unlike them, and then just safely retreat back to their group into their own little hashtags
So
so
do you
they
think this advanced technology has actually made us more barbaric in a way,
I
or
think it's
returned us
just
to more barbaric roots of like tribe versus
I
tribe
think it's
mentality?
really easy to blame like technology and like advances for what like people have become.
Mm,
But really whatever people have achieved, it's still them. It's not like
yeah.
technology made me this way. Like you were that person from the
Mm.
beginning. It's just like technology didn't change who people are. They were just always that way. It just made them able to be more of who they really are then.
Ah,
Right? Like
but some people try to be more of who they are not. You know, like they see.
yeah, they definitely tried to fake it. But like without
Right.
social media, would they be a genuine person without it? Or would they just try and fake it in a different
Mm,
way? Because maybe inwardly they are just a faker. That's just who they are as a person. I know people complain about internet trolls, like, oh, we didn't have these back in our day. You know, I was listening to a crime documentary, and one of these criminals back in the day, what he would do is he would find people in phone book ads and just send them really disgusting, gruesome letters, which is essentially just using the like postal service
mm,
to like troll people essentially. Like trolls have always been around then.
right. But now
Like
you can just
trolls
do it
will
from
be
your
trolls,
keyboard.
but internet just makes it so people can do it through the internet. It's not like oh like I was going to be a good person before, but now with the
Mm.
internet, surely I can delve into evil. Like
Twitter and Instagram.
I mean Facebook too, but like who uses
Oh,
Facebook anymore?
meta now, right? I
Oh god,
guess
I hate the metaverse.
it hasn't even happened yet, has it?
No, just the thought of it though.
Oh, just the
The thought
thought
of
of
it,
it.
like, oh yeah, like you could do something in real life, or you could throw on this VR headset and do it in the digital world. It's like, but why?
Mm. You like
I
the
think
direction where the world's heading in, or kind of like yearn for the old times, nostalgia, or what's the outlook on life right now?
I think I'm very is there a way to describe people who kind of just don't care? That nihilism?
Yeah, that, no, nihilism is like you think there is no meaning. Like that's kind of
Uh,
extreme. I think
Mine's just kind of like I don't care, right?
yeah, I don't care.
Like I didn't agree with what people did back then. I don't agree with what people are doing now. I will just live my life. They live theirs. If like leave me out of
Mm,
your business, whatever. Like that's my
I think
ideal like reality,
I think
right? It's
most
just
Americans are like that
yeah,
now.
it's just like
Yeah.
do what you want, leave me out of whatever you're doing. If I'm not interested, then just we live our lives. What I hate about Twitter and like the way like social media has gone is like, how dare you do that one thing? I don't like what you're doing.
Or
That's my
how
business now.
dare you not care? There's so many things you should care
It's
about.
like,
Something like
it's like,
that.
that's my business now. Like, when did you get involved in this?
Mm, mm. It's more societal pressures. Kind of like things you faced as a kid, except
Or like, or like to talk. Okay, this is a highly political opinion. To talk about abortions, right? Like there's people in the abortion talk who are not, first off, not women who've had kids before, not women with kids, not even like people like men married to women. They're just like random like people who are just like, oh yeah, abortions are evil. Bad. Like this, you really probably should not be part of this conversation. I
Mm,
know there's some argument about whether like it's humane or like let's save the child and stuff, but like, what if we leave it to the people who have children, just like who've been through an experience like that, are at least like knowledgeable enough to talk about it.
mm,
Like, my ideal would be to get people like either pregnant women or women who've had kids. I feel like they know the amount of effort, the stress of bearing a child,
mm.
like like how much work it goes into, like
I
goes
I
into
kind
it.
of trend towards that too. It's like since I'm not a woman,
Like
what do I really know
like
about getting
I'm
pregnant or
an
having a kid?
unmarried single male. What right do I have to tell a woman you are evil for getting an abortion?
But what
Just
if
like
like two pregnant women, one thinks
then like
you shouldn't get an
then they should
abortion,
like
the
talk about
other
it.
thinks you should be able to get one. They can both go through, they have that choice to go through or not to go through. Then,
Like honestly, like with my like kind of like neutral point on politics,
mm,
I side with the let's just have abortions be legal thing. But
mm,
like it's not an easy decision. I don't think anyone's going
yeah,
around it's like woohoo, like getting an abortion. This is fun.
mm,
But like, I don't like the idea of telling a woman, hey, you're having that baby.
right,
It's like, well, who, like, what part of that relationship am I?
mm,
Just to go up to a married couple, like, no, you're having that baby, no matter what your situation in life is. Like, I don't even care to know what your situation in life is. You're having the baby, though.
I guess in that sense, like this is in a very ideal world. And I'm
Yeah,
glad we could like have this conversation without yelling over each other. It's just like the way to talk to people that I guess has gone from the social media world. I guess for me, I think that, you should, if it's such a big decision like having a kid, you should be able to have a decision whether to have the kid or not. But
like
then the
I
decision,
feel like
the question is like if it's a college girl, you know, who's just like very promiscuous, constantly getting pregnant,
yeah,
then
then I
that's
hope one day it weighs heavily on her conscience. And if it doesn't, well, we'll like God sort that out. But
wow,
like,
I see.
but like
Right.
until that, it's just like I don't like the idea of like, especially in Congress, like these 60-plus-year-old men telling women what they should do.
Mm,
What do you care? Like
mm.
being like, oh yeah, I care about the unborn child. Like, no, you don't. You hardly care about normal children.
I feel that the Republicans, they have a hard time articulating like I feel that what they want to aim at is they think that if they allow abortions, it's going to crumble the moral fiber, like it's going to encourage promiscuous behavior. But
See, but
like
but
I
how many
like that's
women are going around like that?
exactly. So that's the counter argument, I guess. It's like it's not, again, it's like what you said. It's
One
not
thing I will say
abortions.
about Republicans though is
Okay,
that
here we go.
no, it's not hating against them. So, like they have some valid points. They really do, but they're so bad at expressing them in a way that doesn't make people hate them. And it's partially the media's fault because the media loves turning things into stuff they're not. It's just like,
Yeah, stir up conflict, so it generates people reading it, and also I guess
but
there's
like it's
sometimes people
become
have
so much like a
agendas.
lot of the Republican like conservative media I've seen is like liberals are wrong about this and here's why. It's like why are you going immediately on the offensive? Like, isn't it your goal to win people to your side, not just to attack the other side?
Because it
Like
generates money.
yeah,
I
like you're
think that's
trying
it
to
in the end.
express a point, like an idea,
Mm,
but like they're doing it in a like aggressive way. It's like this isn't how you're supposed to do it.
mm, mm.
Liberals aren't much better. Honestly, both sides just attack each other.
Right.
Like,
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they took you and I out of context listening to this podcast.
oh, they definitely would.
Uh-huh.
But like, what
So,
side would they put me on? They're like, wait,
right.
he dissed the liberals, but he also
Well, they
he's
wouldn't.
also insulting the
I guess the
conservatives.
conservatives would take the part where he dissed the liberals, and the liberals would take the part where he dissed the conservatives, and just
Yeah,
play
and
that
then
part over and
then
over.
I would like go on some obscure TV network and it's like, what do you mean? I hate them all.
Mm, mm. Well, is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, no, that was about it.
Okay. Well, I guess we could end here for today.
Yeah.
Good first podcast.
Well,
And
we
so,
talked about life, we talked about growing up. We went into politics. I think that covers everything.
that covers everything. Well, think of more stuff next time we could talk about. And so, I guess until next time then, Sean, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.